What's up, everyone? Today I'm sharing with you a pretty powerful mind hack that you can use to give someone a gift when you're telling them stories, to give them a hypnotic gift. So let's get cracking. So today we're talking about, first of all, I want you to think of Russian dolls. You know, Russian dolls are known for one thing. And I want you to think about that because that's what we're going to be talking about today. I want to welcome you to another episode of Hypnotic Storytelling. And today we're talking about stories within stories. So when we talk about hypnotic storytelling, how do you tell stories within stories? So just a quick recap in terms of the last video that we did, because ultimately I'm going to be building on what we said in the last video. So in the last video, I told you about in the 1920s, there was a psychologist whose name is Bluma Zygarnik. Now, what she did is she went to this restaurant and she was fascinated because she was sitting there at this restaurant, she's eating away, and the waiter comes and takes everybody's order. And this waiter remembers everyone's order and he comes back and gives everyone the exact order that they had. And she's fascinated. She's like, how does this waiter remember everybody's order? So she goes and questions the waiter a little bit later. The waiter remembers everyone's order perfectly. And she's like, wow, this is crazy. How does this guy remember everyone's order? Then what happens is they pay the bill, leaves the restaurant, but then she comes back very soon afterwards and asks the waiter about everyone's order. And the waiter's already forgotten everything. And she's like, how could this waiter remember everything the whole time that we were in the restaurant, the whole time that we're eating? How does this waiter remember everything? But then all of a sudden, when the bill is paid, forget everything. She was fascinated. So she did a number of experiments, and she found out that people remember basically the first and last thing. But when we finished something up, that's it, done. We forget it. So she was like, okay, there's something here. There's something here. Marika saying Russian dolls. Oh yeah, yeah. They're very cool. You get some in the UAE with like instead of Russian dolls, you get like someone in a kandura, and then you open it and it's someone in an abaya or something like that. So we have our own little twist on the Russian doll over here. Anyhow, so now what TV shows have done is they've used this to their advantage, because when we keep something open or you end on a cliffhanger, then it stays in your memory for longer. If you just finish up the story, then people just forget about it. That's it, done. The story is finished. I don't need to remember. But if you leave something open, then people remember it for a lot longer. So TV shows have cliffhangers. You know, someone walks into the room and goes, oh, "You're alive." And then all of a sudden the show ends and you're like, okay, what happened? What was the reaction? What's going on? So TV shows, movies, etc., they use this principle. Now, how can you use it? Is by telling a story within a story. Now, this is a very cool example. It's actually one of the books that I got for Sarah and Kamil. And this is literally a story within a story. Basically, it's Thomas Cook's favorite book. And in the story, Thomas Cook is like, he's there and he goes, hey, I'm going to take out my favorite story. And he starts reading the story. And the story is about a pirate who gets stranded on a desert island, and he finds the treasure box and he opens a book, and it's a story about a frog who likes to read, and he goes to the library and he takes and he gets a book and he reads a story about, and then it goes into another story and it goes into another story and it goes into another story. And what happens is, as soon as you go into the next story, and then you go into you forget about Thomas Cook, who started the whole story, and it's a little bit mind bending, and which is why it's very hypnotic. Okay, and so But let's talk about, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to tell stories within stories? Why do you want to tell hypnotic stories? So the first thing to remember is that, well, people remember the first and last thing that you say. So if you start off a story and you have a story within a story, people are going to remember the first story you tell and the last story, the last thing that you said. Okay? So people are more likely to remember that. What happens in between gets a little bit fudgy. And consciously, we can remember about 5 to 7 things. This is how our mind works, okay? We can only hold on to only a few bits of information. So when you tell a story within a story, there's a lot of that the mind has to try and remember, and it begins to forget, which is actually powerful, because what you can do is you can get someone to feel a certain way without them having to really think about what you did. Now, just to give you an idea of what I mean by this, have you ever felt worried and then you forgot why? Like, you know, you got worried and then you got distracted, or you fell asleep or something, and then you wake up and you've still got the feeling of worry, but you can't even remember why you're worried. Or you still feel happy and you don't even remember why you feel happy. This is a powerful thing. This is a powerful thing. So if you want to inspire someone, if you want to get someone to feel more empowered, you can get them to feel more empowered without them remembering why they feel more empowered, which is very powerful, because you can really help people that way, right? If someone sort of sits there, you tell them some advice, and then they question it too much, then you're not going to have the effect that you could have in terms of helping someone. So this is why it's so powerful. So when you have a story within a story within a story, and right in the middle is a very obvious story, they're not going to question it too much, because their mind is trying to hold on to so many bits of information that middle story that should be very obvious, and they just sort of question it and sort of say, yeah, but that's too simple. They don't question it as much. And so that's why it can be very, very powerful by having a middle story. So how do you create a story within a story? So first of all, let's start off very, very simply. Think of a story. Come up with a story. That's it. Once you have a story, you know, have a beginning, a middle, and end, and find out where's the big point in your story. So what is the turning point in your story? In this example, I went and I buy ice cream, and then I'm walking and my ice cream drops, and then I go to another place and get another ice cream. But the middle point is when my ice cream drops, right? That's the point of, okay, what happened next, right? I know it's a very, very simple story. I get it. I'm just using this for illustration purposes. But that is the middle point of your story. This point in the middle where the ice cream drops. This is where you're going to cut your story in half. Now, so once you have one story, think of another story and do the exact same thing. I'm walking down the street, and then I realized, oh my God, I'm late. And I ran, and then I got to school in time. But the middle point of the story is, oh my God, I'm late. That's the point. And then where people will, if you stop the story there, they'll think, oh my God, what happened? What happened? What happened next? Right? So this is the point where people will kind of dwell on the story. So you want to do this a couple of times. So come up with about 3 to 5 stories, and do this the same for each of those. Then you want to have a story of advice, some really powerful advice that you want to give somebody. Okay, so think of the story of a powerful story that you can help someone with. And this can be a very obvious, like someone is going through a hard time, and you want to say to them, look, I have a friend that was going through a hard time, and they went at night and they just thought of what they're grateful for. And, you know, something along those lines. It can be simple advice that you want to tell the person. But if you told the person just directly, they would just sort of question it. They might not, yeah, maybe not, etc. But when you put it within a whole bunch of stories, it is so much more powerful. So think of a story of advice, okay? And then what you do is you tell each story and you break it before the finish of the story. So I went, I bought some ice cream, and then I dropped my ice cream. And then that reminds me of the other day where I was walking, I was just listening to my music, and I realized, oh my God, I was late. Boom. And then you break the story one day, etc. So you tell each story and you break it at the moment, just that moment of anticipation. Then you give that story of advice. What do you want to tell them? What do you really kind of want to tell them? And then you finish up the story. So you finish the story, the last story that you told, the story before, and then you finish with that first story. And people will remember the first and last thing. So what story are they going to remember? They're going to remember this story. That you bought ice cream, it fell down, and then you went somewhere and bought another ice cream. Even though you've told a whole bunch of stuff in the middle, okay? Now, when you do this, it's natural for people to be a bit, forget the middle story, what you said in the middle, because their brain was trying to look after so many things. So oftentimes people won't exactly remember, and that's okay. And that's actually good, because they'll feel good, or they'll feel empowered, or they'll feel like there's an idea that they have, but they won't remember that it sort of came from you. It'll kind of be their idea to a certain degree. Okay, so this is so powerful in that respect. So it's natural to forget the middle when you do this kind of technique. And this is very powerful. And I want you to imagine if you added some symbols, and that's what we're going to talk about in the next video. I'll be talking about that. But for this video, I just wanted to explain why stories within stories are powerful. I get it. It's a bit of an advanced technique, and I'll hopefully do a couple of example videos, etc. However, know that this is it's an advanced technique, but it's very, very, very powerful. And so, and TV shows do use this very frequently as well. Some movies use this, etc. So remember that people remember the first and last thing. Plant a gift in the middle and watch the joy it will bring. With that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Hypnotic Storytelling. With that, I want to thank you guys. Appreciate you so much. I hope to catch you on another video. Now go out and make an impact on someone's life, even if it's your own. Thank you guys for tuning in. Peace out, one love, and I will see you on another episode real soon. Bye for now.